The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, but that wasn't what made the ballroom go silent. It was the sound of Brandon's palm connecting with Simone's face that stopped every conversation, every laugh, every clink of silverware against china plates. 150 people. That's how many witnesses there were to the moment Simone's marriage died. The annual Preston Heights Charity Gala was the event of the season, where doctors, lawyers, business owners, and politicians gathered in their finest clothes to pretend they cared about something other than being seen. The Grandview Hotel ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and gold accents. Women wore designer gowns that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Men adjusted their bow ties and discussed stock portfolios. Simone had worn her burgundy silk dress, the one that made her dark skin glow under the lights. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready, making sure every curl was perfect, every bit of makeup flawless. She wanted to look perfect for this night. Not for Brandon, though she didn't know that yet, but because something inside her whispered that tonight mattered. She'd been standing near the dessert table, balancing a small plate of chocolate mousse, when she saw Brandon's hand on that woman's lower back. Too low. Too familiar. The woman laughed at something he said, touching his chest with her red-painted fingernails. Crystal. That was her name. Simone had met her once before at Brandon's office Christmas party. She worked in accounting, Brandon had said. Just an employee. Nothing to worry about. But the way Crystal looked at Brandon wasn't how an employee looked at a boss. And the way Brandon leaned into her whisper wasn't how a married man should lean into another woman. Simone walked over. She didn't storm. She didn't yell. She simply walked over with her dessert plate still in hand and said, "Brandon, we need to talk." That's when everything changed. Brandon turned to her with eyes that didn't belong to the man she married 7 years ago. These eyes were cold. Hard. Almost hateful. "Not now, Simone," he said through clenched teeth. "Can't you see I'm in the middle of a conversation?" "It's important," Simone said quietly, aware that people were starting to watch. She could feel their eyes on her back like little pinpricks. Crystal smirked. Actually smirked. Her red lips curved up in a way that made Simone's stomach turn. "Everything okay here?" A voice came from behind her. Natasha. Brandon's sister. Simone turned, hoping for support, for someone to see what was happening and help her navigate this moment. But Natasha wasn't looking at Brandon with concern. She was looking at Simone with disgust. "Your wife is making a scene," Natasha said to Brandon, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. "I'm not making a scene," Simone said, her voice still calm despite her racing heart. "I just need to speak with my husband privately." "Always so dramatic," Natasha laughed, but it wasn't a kind laugh. "This is why Brandon gets so stressed. You're constantly embarrassing him in public." Simone felt heat rising in her chest. "Excuse me? I'm embarrassing him?" Brandon grabbed her arm. "Let's go outside." But Simone didn't move. 7 years of swallowing her words, of making herself smaller, of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't, all of it came bubbling up. "No," she said. "You want to have this conversation here? Fine. Why is your hand on her back like that? Why are you looking at her like?" The slap came so fast she didn't see it coming. One moment she was standing upright, the next her head snapped to the side, her cheek exploding in pain. The dessert plate fell from her hand, shattering on the floor. Chocolate mousse splattered across her burgundy dress and the white marble. The ballroom went completely silent. Simone's ears rang. Her face burned. She could taste blood where her teeth had cut the inside of her cheek. Slowly, she turned her head back to look at Brandon. His hand was still raised, his face twisted in anger. And then, cutting through the silence like a knife, came the sound of clapping. Natasha was applauding. Slow, deliberate claps that echoed through the ballroom. "Finally," Natasha said, her voice carrying in the quiet. "Someone had to put her in her place." Simone looked around the ballroom. 150 faces stared back at her. Some looked shocked. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked away. But nobody moved to help her. Nobody said a word. Brandon lowered his hand, his expression changing to something almost like surprise, as if he couldn't believe what he'd just done. But he didn't apologize. He didn't reach for her. Instead, he straightened his jacket and said, "You brought this on yourself." Crystal stood frozen, her red lips parted in shock, but she didn't look sorry. She looked excited. Like this drama was exactly what she wanted. Simone touched her face. Her cheek was on fire. She could feel it swelling already. Tomorrow there would be a bruise. Tomorrow everyone would know. But tomorrow didn't matter right now. She looked at Brandon one more time. Then at Natasha, who had stopped clapping but wore a satisfied smile. then at Crystal, who tried to hide her smirk behind her hand. Simone bent down and picked up her clutch purse from where it had fallen near the chocolate mousse. She straightened her spine, lifted her chin, and walked out of that ballroom with her head high. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She simply walked, her heels clicking against the marble floor, each step echoing in the silence. Behind her, the whispers started. But she didn't turn around. She kept walking through the hotel lobby, past the doorman, into the cool night air. The valet looked at her face and quickly looked away. She waited in silence while he brought her car around. Inside her car, with the doors locked and the engine running, Simone finally let herself breathe. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. She scrolled through her contacts until she found the name she needed. Diana. Her friend from college. The one who'd gone to law school while Simone got married. The one who'd told her years ago, "If you ever need anything, I mean anything, you call me." Simone pressed the call button. Diana answered on the second ring. "Simone? It's almost midnight. Everything okay?" Simone looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Her makeup was ruined. Her cheek was red and swelling. Her dress was stained with chocolate. But her eyes were dry. She hadn't cried. "Diana," she said, her voice steady and calm and cold as ice, "I need a lawyer. The best one you know. And I need someone who can dig up every secret my husband thinks he's buried." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Diana's voice came back, sharp and focused. "I'll make some calls. Don't go home tonight. Check into a hotel. Send me your location. I'll be there in an hour." "Thank you," Simone whispered. "Don't thank me yet," Diana said. "We're about to go to war. And honey, we're going to win." Simone hung up the phone. She looked back at the hotel entrance where the gala was still happening. Through the windows she could see people dancing, laughing, drinking. Life going on as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Brandon had made a mistake. Natasha had made a mistake. Crystal had made a mistake. They'd thought she was weak. They'd thought she would stay quiet. They'd thought that slap would put her in her place. They thought wrong. Simone put her car in drive and pulled away from the hotel. She didn't look back. She would never look back again. That one quiet phone call had just set everything in motion. And by the time Brandon realized what was coming, it would be too late to stop it. Simone woke up in a hotel room that wasn't hers, in a bed that smelled like fresh laundry and nothing like home. For 3 seconds she forgot where she was. Then she moved her head and her cheeks screamed in pain and everything came flooding back. The gala. The slap. Natasha's applause. That phone call. She sat up slowly and caught sight of herself in the mirror across from the bed. Her face looked worse than it felt, which was saying something. The right side was swollen and purple, her eye puffy. She looked like she'd been in a fight. In a way she had been. She'd just lost the first round. But she wasn't planning to lose the second. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Text messages filled the screen. 12 from Brandon. She scrolled through them without opening them, reading the previews. "Where are you? Come home so we can talk about this. You're overreacting. People are calling me asking questions. You're making this worse than it needs to be. I'm sorry but you pushed me." She stopped reading. Delete. 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 Every message gone. There were also messages from people she barely knew. Friends of friends who'd been at the gala. People offering fake sympathy while fishing for gossip. She ignored those too. The only message she opened was from Diana. "I'm downstairs with coffee and files. Ready when you are." Simone looked at the clock. 7 in the morning. She'd barely slept, but adrenaline was better than coffee right now. She texted back, "Give me 20 minutes. She showered carefully, avoiding the hot water on her face. Each drop felt like needles on her swollen cheek. She thought about every shower she'd taken in the house she shared with Brandon. The bathroom with the fancy marble counters she'd picked out. The towels she'd bought. The soap she'd chosen. Everything in that house had her fingerprints on it. Everything in that house was about to become hers legally. She dressed in jeans and a simple black sweater. No makeup, there was no hiding this bruise anyway. She pulled her curls into a ponytail and looked at herself one more time. This was what the truth looked like. No filters. No pretending. Just a woman who'd been hit by her husband and was done pretending everything was fine. Diana was sitting in the hotel restaurant with 2 large coffees, a stack of folders and a laptop. She stood up when she saw Simone, and her face went tight with anger when she saw the bruise. "That bastard," Diana said. She didn't hug Simone. She knew better. Instead, she pulled out a chair and said, "Sit. We have work to do." Simone sat. Diana slid a coffee across to her and opened the first folder. I spent the night making calls, Diana said. I have 3 things to tell you and you're not going to like any of them. But you need to hear them before we start. Simone wrapped her hands around the coffee cup. It was too hot to drink but the heat felt real. Tell me. First, Brandon is telling people you started a fight and he was defending himself. He's claiming you attacked him first and he was trying to get you away from Crystal. Some people believe him. Simone's jaw tightened but she didn't speak. Second, there are no security cameras in that section of the ballroom. So we can't prove what really happened unless witnesses come forward. And honestly, most people don't want to get involved. And the third thing? Diana leaned forward. This isn't his first time. I did some digging. Brandon had a girlfriend before you. Her name was Nicole. She filed a police report 3 years before you met him. Claimed he shoved her during an argument. She dropped the charges a week later. Simone felt cold despite the hot coffee. He never told me about a Nicole. Of course he didn't. Men like Brandon don't tell the truth about their past. They rewrite it. Diana pulled out another folder. But here's the good news. That police report is public record. It establishes a pattern of behavior. And I have something even better. She opened her laptop and turned it toward Simone. On the screen was a bank statement. Brandon's name was at the top. How did you get this? Simone asked. You gave me access, remember? When you called last night, you told me you suspected financial problems. You gave me permission to look into your joint accounts and any accounts with your name on them. Diana pointed at the screen. Look at these transactions. Simone leaned forward. Lines and lines of transactions. Restaurants she'd never been to. Hotels she'd never stayed at. Jewelry purchases she'd never received. Money transfers to accounts she didn't recognize. He's been spending your money, Diana said. Or rather, your family's money. Because let's talk about the real issue here. She pulled out another folder. This one was thick, stuffed with papers. Your grandmother left you a trust fund when she died 5 years ago. $2 million. You used half of it to help Brandon expand his business. The other half went into joint savings. Do you remember signing papers about that? Simone remembered. Brandon had said it was smart financially. He'd said having joint accounts meant they were really partners. He'd said he would never touch her money without permission. He's been draining the joint account for 2 years, Diana said. Small amounts at first. A few thousand here and there. But in the last 6 months he's taken out almost $300,000. All of it went to 2 places. First, luxury expenses that line up perfectly with Crystal's social media posts. Trips to Miami. Weekend getaways. Designer bags. And the second place? Diana's face was grim. An offshore account. He's hiding money, Simone. He's been planning something. Maybe divorce. Maybe he was just stealing from you. Either way, he thought you'd never notice. Simone felt something inside her chest crack open. Not heartbreak. That had happened last night. This was different. This was rage. Pure, cold, focused rage. How much is left in our joint account? She asked. $17,000. From an original $1 million. And my business stake? The money I put into his company? Diana smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was a hunter's smile. That's where things get interesting. When you gave Brandon that $1 million, you signed a partnership agreement. Do you remember what it said? Simone tried to remember. It had been 5 years ago. She'd been so in love, so trusting. Brandon had put papers in front of her and she'd signed them because he'd said it was just a formality. I don't remember the details, she admitted. Well, I got a copy from the county clerk's office. The partnership agreement states that you own 30% of his business. Not 30% of the profits. 30% of the entire company. Which means you have a say in all major decisions. And it means that in a divorce, you're entitled to your full share plus compensation for any mismanagement of funds. Diana pulled out a calculator and started typing. His business is currently valued at approximately $8 million. Your 30% is worth $2.4 million. Plus the money he stole from your joint account. Plus damages for physical assault. Plus the cost of your lawyer, which is me, and I'm very expensive. She looked up at Simone. We're going to take him apart piece by piece. Legally. Properly. And by the time we're done, Brandon won't have enough money left to buy Crystal a cup of coffee. Simone felt something she hadn't felt in years. Power. Real power. Not the fake power of being a successful man's wife. Not the borrowed power of wearing expensive clothes and attending fancy galas. This was her own power, built on her own money and her own choices. What do I need to do? She asked. Diana pulled out a notebook. First, we document everything. Every bruise, every message, every threat. Take pictures. Save texts. Record phone calls if he calls you. This state allows one-party consent for recordings. Second, you don't go back to that house. Not alone. We'll get a police escort to collect your things. Third, you don't talk to Brandon without me present. Not a single word. He'll try to manipulate you, gaslight you, make you think you're wrong. Don't give him the chance. What about Natasha? What about her? She applauded when he hit me. In front of everyone. She humiliated me. Diana leaned back in her chair. Karma will handle Natasha. Trust me. Women like her always get what's coming to them. But our focus is Brandon. We make him pay first. Everything else falls into place after that. Simone's phone buzzed again. Another text from Brandon. I'm coming to get you. We need to talk face to face. She showed the message to Diana. Perfect, Diana said. Text him back. Tell him you'll meet him tomorrow at my office at 2 p.m. Formal mediation. Bring his lawyer. He doesn't have a lawyer yet. He will by tomorrow. Men like Brandon always think they're smarter than everyone else. He'll walk in thinking he can charm his way out of this. And we'll be waiting with every piece of evidence we have. Simone typed the message exactly as Diana dictated. Send it. Watch the read receipt appear. 3 dots showed Brandon was typing. Then they disappeared. Then they appeared again. Finally his response came, fine. But you're making a big mistake. Simone showed Diana the message. No, Diana said. He's the one who made the mistake. He hit you in front of 150 witnesses. He thought you were powerless. He thought wrong. They spent the next 3 hours going through every document, every bank statement, every piece of evidence. Diana took pictures of Simone's bruised face from every angle. She recorded Simone's statement about what happened at the gala. She created a timeline of Brandon's spending, his late nights, his suspicious behavior. By noon, they had built the foundation of a case that would destroy Brandon's life as he knew it. Get some rest, Diana said as they packed up the files. Tomorrow is going to be hard. He's going to try to break you. He's going to cry, apologize, promise he'll change. He might even threaten you. But you stay strong. You remember that slap. You remember Natasha's applause. You remember every lie he told you. Simone nodded. She was tired. Her face hurt. Her heart hurt. But underneath all that pain was something harder than diamond. Determination. She went back to her hotel room, took another pain pill, lay down on the bed, closed her eyes. But she didn't sleep. She thought about the last 7 years. Every moment she'd made herself smaller. Every time she'd apologized for things that weren't her fault. Every dinner party where she'd played the perfect wife while Brandon flirted with other women. Every time Natasha had made little comments about her hair, her clothes, her voice, and she'd just smiled and taken it. She'd been so good at taking it. But she was done taking anything from anyone. Her phone buzzed one more time. A text from a number she didn't recognize. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. If you need anything, let me know. Nicole. Nicole. The girlfriend before her. The one who'd filed a police report and then dropped it. Simone stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back, thank you. I might take you up on that. The response came immediately, he doesn't change. They never do. But you're stronger than I was. Finish what I couldn't. Simone saved the number under Nicole Witness and put her phone away. Tomorrow the war would begin. And she was going to win. The building where Diana worked was all glass and steel, the kind of place that made you feel small when you walked in. But Simone didn't feel small anymore. She felt ready. Diana met her in the lobby wearing a sharp black suit and carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than most people's cars. They didn't talk as they rode the elevator to the 12th floor. The silence was comfortable. They both knew what was coming. The conference room was cold and professional. White walls, a long table, leather chairs. Diana arranged her files at one end of the table and set up her laptop. Simone sat beside her, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. She'd worn a cream-colored blouse and black pants. Simple. Professional. And nothing that hid the purple bruise on her face. At exactly 2 p.m. the door opened. Brandon walked in first. He'd lost weight since she'd last seen him 2 days ago. His eyes were red, his hair messy. Behind him came a short man in a gray suit carrying a worn briefcase. His lawyer. Brandon stopped when he saw Simone's face. For a moment, just a moment, something flickered across his expression. Guilt? Regret? But it was gone before she could name it. Simone, he said, his voice rough. Can we talk privately? Just for a minute? No, Diana said before Simone could respond. Everything that needs to be said will be said here. Please sit down. Brandon's lawyer guided him to a chair across from them. The man introduced himself as Gerald Patterson. He looked tired, like Brandon had already worn him out. My client wants to discuss reconciliation, Gerald said, opening his briefcase. He understands there was an incident at the charity gala. He's prepared to attend anger management classes and marriage counseling. He's hoping we can resolve this without lawyers. Diana didn't even blink. Your client assaulted my client in front of 150 witnesses. This isn't an incident. This is a crime. And we're not here to discuss reconciliation. We're here to discuss the terms of the divorce. Divorce? Brandon sat forward. Simone, come on. We can work this out. I made a mistake. I'll do whatever it takes. Please. Simone looked at him. Really looked at him. The man she'd married 7 years ago had been charming, funny, ambitious. This man sitting across from her was a stranger. Or maybe he'd always been a stranger and she'd just been too blind to see it. You hit me, she said quietly. In front of everyone. And your sister clapped. Natasha was wrong, Brandon said quickly. I already talked to her. She feels terrible. She wants to apologize to you. I don't want her apology. Then what do you want? Diana answered for her. She pulled out the first folder and slid it across the table. We want financial records for the last 5 years. We want documentation of every business transaction. We want access to all bank accounts, including any offshore accounts. We want a full accounting of how my client's investment in your business has been managed. Gerald opened the folder. His face went pale as he read. You've been tracking my spending? Brandon's voice rose. Are you serious right now? Your spending of her money? Diana corrected. Money from joint accounts that you've been draining for 2 years. Money you used to fund your affair with Crystal Gomez. Brandon's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. We also want, Diana continued, pulling out another folder, a formal acknowledgement of the partnership agreement signed 5 years ago. The one that gives my client 30% ownership of your business. We'll need that in writing, signed by you and your business partners. That was just a formality, Brandon stammered. I never thought. You never thought she'd ask for what's legally hers? Diana smiled coldly. That's the problem with men like you, Brandon. You always think you're smarter than everyone else. You think you can lie, cheat, steal, and hit and there won't be consequences. But there are always consequences. She pulled out another folder. This one had photos. Simone didn't look at them. She knew what they showed. Her face from every angle. The bruise in full color. The swelling around her eye. These photos will be submitted to the police along with a formal complaint, Diana said. We have witness statements being collected as we speak. We have your pattern of behavior, including a previous incident with Nicole Martinez 3 years before you met my client. Brandon's face went white. How did we find out? Because we're thorough. Because my client deserves justice. And because you were stupid enough to think no one would ever check your past. Gerald cleared his throat. May I have a moment to consult with my client? Of course, Diana said. We'll be right outside. She and Simone stood up and walked out of the conference room. The door clicked shut behind them. In the hallway, Simone finally let herself breathe. Her hands were shaking. Diana noticed and squeezed her shoulder. You did perfect, Diana said. Keep that same energy. Don't let him see you crack. What if he won't agree to any of this? Then we go to court. We make everything public. His affair, his financial crimes, his history of violence. We destroy his reputation so completely that no one in this city will want to do business with him. Trust me, he'll agree. They waited 15 minutes before Gerald opened the door and gestured them back inside. Brandon looked broken. His head was in his hands. When he looked up at Simone, there were tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Simone said nothing. She just stared at him. My client is willing to negotiate, Gerald said. But these demands are unreasonable. 30% of the business is worth millions. And the personal accounts. We're funded by my client's inheritance, Diana interrupted. We're not negotiating. These are the terms. Your client accepts them or we go to court. And I promise you, court will be much more expensive and much more public. Brandon wiped his eyes. What about the house? What about it? Can I keep the house? I'll buy out Simone's half. I'll take a loan. I just need somewhere to live. Diana looked at Simone. This was her choice. Simone thought about the house. The bedroom where she'd cried herself to sleep so many nights. The kitchen where she'd made dinner for Brandon while he texted Crystal. The bathroom where she'd seen him delete messages from his phone. The living room where Natasha had criticized everything about her. Keep it, Simone said. I never want to see that house again. Brandon looked relieved. Then Diana dropped the next bomb. However, my client will need a full home appraisal and Brandon will pay her 50% of the current market value within 90 days. If he can't pay, the house will be sold and the proceeds split. The relief on Brandon's face vanished. I don't have that kind of cash, he said. Then you'll need to find it. Sell your car. Take a loan. Ask Crystal for help. I don't care how you do it. But you will pay my client what she's owed. They went back and forth for another hour. Gerald tried to negotiate lower percentages, longer payment timelines, reduced amounts. Diana didn't budge on anything. Every time Gerald suggested a compromise, Diana pulled out another piece of evidence. Another bank statement. Another receipt. Another lie. Finally, Gerald leaned over and whispered something to Brandon. Brandon closed his eyes, nodded once, and then looked at Simone. Fine, he said. I'll agree to everything. Just please don't file the police report. Don't make this public. I'll lose everything. You should have thought of that before you hit her, Diana said. She pulled out a document. This is a settlement agreement. It includes all the terms we discussed. You'll sign it now. Your lawyer will witness it. And then you'll have 90 days to start making payments. If you miss even one payment, the police report gets filed immediately. Do you understand? Brandon picked up the pen with shaking hands. He read through the document, his face getting paler with each page. But he signed it. Every page. Every line. When it was done, Diana collected the documents and stood up. We're finished here. My client will have no further contact with you. All communication goes through me. If you try to contact her directly, that's harassment and we'll add it to the police report. If you threaten her, if you come near her, if you so much as look at her wrong, I will make it my personal mission to destroy what's left of your life. Are we clear? Brandon nodded. He couldn't even look at Simone anymore. Gerald packed up his briefcase. We'll be in touch about the payment schedule. You do that, Diana said. Simone stood up. She looked at Brandon one last time. The man who'd promised to love her forever. The man who'd hit her in front of a room full of people. The man who'd stolen her money and lied to her face for years. She felt nothing. No love. No hate. Nothing at all. She turned and walked out of the conference room without saying a word. Diana followed, closing the door behind them. In the elevator, Simone finally let herself lean against the wall. Her legs felt weak. Her chest hurt. But she'd done it. She'd faced him and she hadn't cried. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't made herself smaller. Is it always this hard? She asked Diana. The first part is always the hardest, Diana said. But you got through it. And now the fun part starts. Fun. Diana smiled. Watching him scramble to come up with the money. Watching him try to explain to his business partners why he needs to liquidate assets. Watching his whole perfect life fall apart piece by piece. That's the fun part. The elevator doors opened. They walked through the lobby into the bright afternoon sunlight. Simone turned her face up to the sky and closed her eyes. The sun felt good on her skin. Warm and real and alive. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw Brandon leaving your lawyer's office. He looked terrible. Whatever you're doing to him, keep doing it. Nicole. Simone smiled. A real smile. The first one in days. She texted back, I'm just getting started. Simone stood outside the office building where Brandon worked, staring up at the glass and chrome structure that reached 15 stories into the sky. Sterling Consulting Group. The name was printed in silver letters above the entrance. Sterling. Brandon had chosen that name because he thought it sounded prestigious. Successful. Untouchable. But nothing was untouchable. Simone was about to prove that. Diana stood beside her, briefcase in hand. Ready? Ready, Simone said. They walked through the revolving doors into the lobby. The security guard recognized Simone and waved them through without asking questions. Why wouldn't he? She'd been here dozens of times before, bringing Brandon lunch, attending company parties, playing the supportive wife. But today was different. Today she was here as an owner. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt longer than it should have. Simone watched the numbers climb and remembered the first time Brandon had brought her here, back when it was just him and 2 employees working out of a tiny office on the 3rd floor. He'd been so excited, talking about his dreams of expansion, of making something great. She'd believed in those dreams. She'd helped fund them. And now she was going to claim what was rightfully hers. The elevator doors opened onto a floor of cubicles and glass-walled offices. People looked up from their computers as Simone and Diana walked toward the corner office. Brandon's office. Brandon's assistant, a young man named Tyler, jumped up from his desk. "Mrs. Harrison, I didn't know you were coming today." "Mr. Harrison isn't in. He's at a meeting across town." "That's fine," Diana said smoothly. "We're actually here to see Mr. Patterson and Mr. Lee." Tyler looked confused. "The other partners? Do you have an appointment?" "No," Simone said. "But they'll want to see us. Trust me." She walked past Tyler's desk to the double doors that led to the executive suite. Diana followed. Tyler scrambled after them, trying to protest, but Simone was already knocking on the first door. "Come in," a voice called. Simone opened the door. Gregory Patterson sat behind a massive mahogany desk, reading something on his computer. He looked up and blinked in surprise. "Simone? What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," Simone said. "Is Leonard available?" Yes, I think so." "What's this about?" "Get him. You'll want to hear this together." 5 minutes later, both partners were sitting in Gregory's office looking bewildered. Diana had laid out several folders on the desk. Simone sat in one of the leather chairs, her back straight, her face calm. "I'm Diana Chin," Diana said, though she'd changed her last name for this meeting and Simone knew it. "I'm Mrs. Harrison's attorney. We're here to discuss her ownership stake in Sterling Consulting Group." Gregory and Leonard exchanged glances. "Ownership stake?" Leonard said. "I'm sorry, I think there's been some confusion. Brandon's wife doesn't own any part of the company." Diana smiled. She pulled out a document and slid it across the desk. "According to this partnership agreement, filed with the county clerk 5 years ago and signed by all 3 partners, Simone Harrison owns 30% of this company. Brandon transferred that percentage to her when she invested $1 million of her own money into the business." Gregory picked up the document. His face went pale as he read. "I don't understand. Brandon told us the money came from a business loan." "It came from my inheritance," Simone said. "From my grandmother. Brandon said he needed capital to expand. He said it would be our investment together. He had me sign paperwork. I trusted him. But we never saw any of this," Leonard said, picking up the document. "Brandon handled all the financial paperwork that year. He said he'd filed everything properly." "He did file it," Diana said. "Just not with you. He kept this particular document private. But it's legally binding. It's notarized. It's registered with the state. And it means Simone has been a partner in this company for 5 years without anyone acknowledging it." Gregory leaned back in his chair looking sick. "Brandon told us he mortgaged his house to get that money. He said he was sacrificing everything for the company." "He lied," Diana said simply. "He took my client's money, told you it was his money, and has been collecting the full share of profits as if he owned 40% of the company instead of 10%. The math hit them both at the same time. Leonard actually stood up. "That son of a gun. He's been stealing from us too." "Exactly," Diana said. "Every distribution you thought was split 35, 35, 30 actually should have been split 35, 35, 20, 10. Brandon has been pocketing an extra 20% that should have been going to my client." "How much money are we talking about?" Gregory asked. Diana pulled out a calculator and a spreadsheet. "Based on the company's financial records for the last 5 years, approximately $400,000. That's how much Brandon has stolen from Simone by claiming her shares as his own." The room went silent. Simone could hear the air conditioning humming. Someone walked past the office door laughing at something. But inside this room, everything had frozen. "Why didn't you say something before?" Leonard finally asked Simone. "Why now?" "Because I didn't know," Simone said. "I trusted my husband. When he said the business was doing well, I believed him. When he said we couldn't afford things, I cut back. I never looked at the company books. I never asked questions. That was my mistake." "But you're asking now," Gregory said. "Yes, because my marriage is over. And I want what's mine." Leonard ran his hand through his hair. "This is a disaster. If this gets out, if investors find out that Brandon has been lying about the ownership structure." "It doesn't have to get out," Diana said carefully. "My client isn't interested in destroying this company. She just wants what she's owed. There are 2 ways this can go. First option, you acknowledge her ownership publicly, restructure the partnership, and start distributing profits according to the actual agreement. Second option, You buy out her shares at current market value. How much would that cost? Gregory asked. Diana typed on her calculator. The company was recently valued at $8 million. 30% of that is $2.4 million, plus the $400,000 in back payments she's owed. Call it $2.8 million total. Leonard whistled. We don't have that kind of cash sitting around. Then I suggest you go with option 1, Diana said. Acknowledge her ownership. Give her a seat at the table. Let her have input on major decisions like any other partner would. Gregory and Leonard looked at each other again. Simone could see them having an entire conversation without words. Finally, Gregory turned back to her. We need to talk to Brandon. No, Simone said. You need to talk to your lawyer. Brandon doesn't get a vote in this. The partnership agreement is legal and binding. What he wants doesn't matter. But he's still a partner, Leonard protested. A partner who committed fraud, Diana said. A partner who lied to you for 5 years. A partner who put this entire company at risk by hiding legal documents and misrepresenting the ownership structure. If I were you, I'd be more worried about your own liability than Brandon's feelings. That landed. Gregory's face went hard. You're right. Leonard, call our lawyer. Get him here now. We need to figure out how to handle this. I'll be in touch, Diana said, standing up. You have 48 hours to decide how you want to proceed. After that, we file a formal complaint with the Business Licensing Board and the whole thing becomes public record. She collected her folders and walked to the door. Simone stood up to follow her. Simone, Gregory called. She turned. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. If we'd known, if Brandon had told us the truth. I know, Simone said. But he didn't. And now we all have to deal with it. They left the office and walked back through the cubicles. People pretended not to watch, but Simone could feel their eyes on her. By tomorrow, everyone in this office would know she was here. The rumors would start spreading. Brandon's perfect image would start cracking. In the elevator, Diana grinned. That went even better than I hoped. You think they'll buy me out? Absolutely. They're terrified. Their whole company is built on reputation and trust. If word gets out that one of the partners has been committing fraud for 5 years, they'll lose clients. They'll lose investors. They'll lose everything. They'll find the money somehow. What about Brandon? What happens to him? That's up to them. But I'm guessing they'll force him out. Men like Gregory and Leonard don't forgive betrayal. They'll protect the company first, and that means cutting Brandon loose. They walked out of the building into the afternoon sun. Simone felt lighter than she had in days. Every step she took was one step further from the life she'd been living. One step closer to freedom. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I heard you were at Sterling today. Brandon is losing his mind. He's calling everyone trying to do damage control. It's not working. Tyler. Brandon's assistant. Simone hadn't expected him to reach out. She texted back, why are you telling me this? The response came quickly, because I've seen how he treats you. How he talks about you when you're not around. You deserve better. Everyone here knows it. Simone showed the message to Diana. See, Diana said. People aren't as blind as you think. They've been watching Brandon for years. They know what kind of man he is. And now that you're standing up to him, they want to help. They got into Diana's car. As they pulled away from the building, Simone looked back one more time. She thought about all the parties she'd attended there. All the dinners where she'd smiled and played the perfect wife. All the times she'd made herself small so Brandon could seem bigger. She was done being small. Where to next? She asked Diana. Next we wait. We let Brandon sweat. We let him watch his perfect life crumble. And when he's at his lowest, when he thinks it can't get any worse, we hit him with the final blow. What final blow? Diana smiled. Trust me. You'll know it when you see it. 3 days after Simone walked into Sterling Consulting Group, Brandon showed up at her hotel. She was in the restaurant having breakfast when Tyler texted her. He's on his way up. Security tried to stop him, but he claimed he was your husband. They let him through. Simone's fork paused halfway to her mouth. She set it down carefully, wiped her mouth with her napkin, and pulled out her phone. She opened the voice recorder app and hit record, then slipped the phone into her shirt pocket. She'd learned a lot from Diana in the past week. Always record. Always document. Always be prepared. Brandon burst through the restaurant entrance 30 seconds later. His tie was crooked. His hair stuck up like he'd been running his hands through it. His eyes were wild. Several people looked up from their breakfast, sensing drama. There you are, Brandon said, striding toward her table. You've been avoiding me. I haven't been avoiding you, Simone said calmly. I've been following my lawyer's advice. All communication goes through Diana. Screw Diana. Brandon's voice rose. Screw the lawyers. This is between us. A waiter appeared at Brandon's elbow. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. You're disturbing the other guests. Brandon ignored him. He pulled out the chair across from Simone and sat down without being invited. You went to my office. You told my partners about that agreement. Do you have any idea what you've done? I told them the truth, Simone said. Something you should have done 5 years ago. That agreement was just paperwork. It didn't mean anything. It was notarized. It was filed with the state. It absolutely meant something. Brandon leaned forward, his hands flat on the table. They're forcing me out. Gregory and Leonard called an emergency meeting yesterday. They're making me sell my shares back to the company at a reduced rate. They're saying I committed fraud. You did commit fraud. I was protecting my investment. You were stealing from me. From them. From everyone. Brandon's jaw clenched. I built that company. Me. Not you. Not Gregory. Not Leonard. I'm the one who worked 18-hour days. I'm the one who brought in clients. I'm the one who made Sterling what it is. With my money, Simone said. With my grandmother's inheritance that you told everyone was a loan. I would have paid you back. When? After you'd spent it all on Crystal? Brandon's face went red. The waiter hovered nearby, unsure whether to call security or not. Simone gave him a small nod. Not yet. Crystal has nothing to do with this, Brandon said. Crystal has everything to do with this. You spent $300,000 of our joint savings on her. Hotels, jewelry, trips. All while telling me we needed to cut back. All while I was eating box pasta and shopping at discount stores so we could save for our future. It wasn't that much money. Simone pulled out her phone, scrolled to a saved document and turned it toward him. It was a spreadsheet Diana had created. Every transaction. Every receipt. Every lie. Brandon looked at it for 10 seconds before pushing the phone away. You've been spying on me. I've been looking at my own bank statements. That's not spying. That's called being responsible. This is insane. You're destroying my life over one mistake. One mistake. Simone's voice stayed level but ice ran through every word. You hit me. In front of 150 people. Your sister applauded. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. I apologized for that. No, you didn't. You said I brought it on myself. That's not an apology. Brandon put his head in his hands. When he looked up, there were tears in his eyes. I'm going to lose everything. The company. The house. My reputation. Everything I worked for. You should have thought about that before you raised your hand to me. Please. Brandon reached across the table, trying to grab her hand. Simone pulled back. Please, Simone. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut Crystal off completely. I'll do whatever you want. Just call off your lawyer. Tell Gregory and Leonard it was a misunderstanding. We can start over. There's no starting over, Simone said. This marriage is done. You don't mean that. I mean every word. Brandon's expression changed. The desperation disappeared, replaced by something harder. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won. This isn't about winning. Everything is about winning. He leaned back in his chair. You want to play hardball? Fine. I've got lawyers too. And I've got friends. People who will testify that you're unstable. That you've been making things up. That you attacked me at the gala and I was defending myself. 150 people saw what happened. And how many of them will actually testify? How many of them want to get involved in a messy divorce? People don't want to take sides, Simone. They want to stay out of it. And without witnesses, it's your word against mine. Simone felt something cold settle in her stomach. But she kept her face calm. Is that a threat? It's reality. You want to take me down? I'll take you down with me. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of woman you really are. Vindictive. Greedy. A liar. The waiter was definitely calling security now. Simone could see him on the phone near the kitchen entrance. Are you done? Simone asked. I'm just getting started. Good. Because I want to make sure I have all of this recorded. She pulled her phone out of her pocket and placed it on the table. The voice recorder app was still running, the timer showing 12 minutes and 34 seconds. Brandon's face went white. You recorded this? Every word. Including the part where you threatened to destroy my reputation. Including the part where you admitted there was something with Crystal. including the part where you tried to intimidate me into dropping the case. That's illegal. Actually, in this state, one-party consent laws mean I can record any conversation I'm part of. Diana made sure I knew that. Brandon lunged for the phone. Simone grabbed it first and stood up, backing away from the table. Security guards were already rushing through the restaurant entrance. You which? Brandon hissed. You set me up. No, Simone said. You hung yourself. I just gave you the rope. The security guards reached the table. Sir, we need you to leave. This is my wife. Your ex-wife, Simone corrected. And you're harassing me. Either you leave now or they call the police. Your choice. Brandon looked at her with pure hatred. This isn't over. Yes, Simone said. It is. The guards escorted him out. Brandon didn't fight them, but he kept looking back at Simone with those hate-filled eyes. She stood perfectly still until he was gone. Then she sat back down at her table, picked up her coffee cup and took a sip. Her hand was shaking. She set the cup down carefully and pressed her palms flat against the table. The waiter appeared with a fresh cup of coffee. On the house, he said quietly. Are you okay? I'm fine, Simone said. Thank you. She wasn't fine. Her heart was racing. Her breath came short. But she'd done it. She'd faced Brandon and she hadn't backed down. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't made excuses. She'd stood her ground. Her phone rang. Diana. I just got an email from Brandon's new lawyer, Diana said. He's threatening to countersue for defamation. Did something happen? He showed up at my hotel, Simone said. I recorded everything. He threatened me. He admitted to the affair. He tried to intimidate me into dropping the case. There was a pause. Then Diana laughed. Actually laughed. He did what? He threatened me. On tape. Oh, this is perfect. Send me that recording right now. Brandon just handed us everything we need to destroy him in court. His lawyer is going to be furious. Simone sent the recording. While she waited for Diana to confirm receipt, she noticed people in the restaurant were staring at her. Some looked sympathetic. Some looked curious. One older woman caught her eye and nodded, a small gesture of understanding. Got it? Diana said. I'm listening now. Oh, this is gold. You witch. Really? He actually said that. He said worse, but I'm trying not to repeat it. Don't worry. The recording speaks for itself. I'm forwarding this to his lawyer right now with a note that if Brandon attempts to contact you again, we're filing a restraining order and adding harassment to the criminal complaint. Will that work? It'll work. Trust me. Brandon just made the biggest mistake of his life. Again. They hung up. Simone finished her coffee and went back to her room. She needed to shower. Change clothes. Get ready for the rest of the day. But first she sent a text to Nicole, had a confrontation with Brandon. It's on tape. Diana says it's perfect evidence. The response came immediately, I wish I'd been that smart. You're doing what I was too scared to do. Keep going. Simone looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. The bruise on her face had faded from purple to yellow-green. In another week it would be gone. But the recording would last forever. The truth would last forever. Brandon had tried to break her one more time. Instead, he'd broken himself. And Simone was just getting started. The courtroom wasn't like the ones on TV. It was smaller, more cramped, with uncomfortable wooden benches and fluorescent lights that made everyone look sick. Simone sat beside Diana at the plaintiff's table, her hands folded in her lap, her back straight. Across the aisle, Brandon sat with Gerald Patterson and a second lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Rebecca Ford who specialized in divorce cases. Brandon wouldn't look at Simone. He stared straight ahead, his jaw tight, his hands clenched on the table. All rise, the bailiff said. The Honorable Judge Patricia Williams presiding. Everyone stood. Judge Williams entered from a side door, her black robe flowing behind her. She was a thin woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She settled into her chair and gestured for everyone to sit. Case number 2025-4721, she said, reading from a file. Harrison versus Harrison. Dissolution of marriage. I've reviewed the preliminary filings. This is a mess. Your Honor, Gerald began, but Judge Williams held up her hand. I said it's a mess, Mr. Patterson. That wasn't a question. She looked at Diana. Miss Chin, you're representing Mrs. Harrison? Yes, Your Honor. And you've filed for dissolution of marriage, division of assets, restitution for theft and damages for assault. That's quite a list. My client has been wronged in multiple ways, Your Honor. We're seeking to make those wrongs right. Judge Williams looked at Brandon. Mr. Harrison, did you strike your wife at the Preston Heights Charity Gala on the evening of October 23rd? Brandon's lawyers whispered to each other. Rebecca stood up. Your Honor, my client declines to answer that question on the grounds that it may incriminate him. That's interesting, Judge Williams said. Because there's a video. The courtroom went silent. I'm sorry? Rebecca said. Judge Williams pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen. Someone at the gala was filming the event for social media. They caught the entire incident on camera. The video was sent to my office this morning along with an affidavit from the person who filmed it. She turned the tablet around. On the screen, Simone could see herself in her burgundy dress, standing near the dessert table. Brandon grabbing her arm. Her saying something. And then the slap, clear as day. Crystal in the background. Natasha applauding. Simone hadn't known the video existed. Diana's eyes were wide. She hadn't known either. The video also has audio, Judge Williams continued. I can hear Mr. Harrison threatening his wife. I can hear her telling him she just wants to talk. And I can hear his sister applauding after he hits her. She looked at Brandon. So let me ask again. Did you strike your wife? Brandon's face was gray. Rebecca whispered something urgent to him. Finally he nodded. Yes, he said quietly. But she. There's no, but, that excuses domestic violence, Mr. Harrison. Judge Williams set the tablet down. Here's what's going to happen. I'm granting Mrs. Harrison's request for immediate separation of assets. All joint accounts will be frozen pending final division. Mr. Harrison, you will not contact your wife outside of these legal proceedings. If you do, I'll hold you in contempt. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Brandon mumbled. Speak up. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Now let's talk about the business. Ms. Chin, you're claiming your client owns 30% of Sterling Consulting Group. Diana stood. Yes, Your Honor. We have the partnership agreement, properly notarized and filed. Mrs. Harrison invested $1 million of her own money 5 years ago. Mr. Harrison represented that money to his business partners as a personal loan he'd taken out. He's been collecting profits that should have been going to my client. I have the partnership agreement here, Judge Williams said, holding up another document. It's very clear. Mrs. Harrison is listed as a 30% owner. Mr. Harrison, did you tell your business partners about this agreement? Brandon looked at his lawyers. No, Your Honor. Why not? I thought it would complicate things. So you committed fraud. I wasn't trying to. You took your wife's money, claimed it as your own, and hid her ownership stake from your partners. That's fraud, Mr. Harrison. And it's also theft. Judge Williams made a note in her file. I'm ordering a full audit of Sterling Consulting Group. Mrs. Harrison will receive all back payments she's owed, plus interest. If the company can't pay, Mr. Harrison will pay from his personal assets. Gerald stood up. Your Honor, that could bankrupt my client. Then your client should have thought about that before he stole from his wife. Judge Williams closed the file. We'll reconvene in 30 days for final asset division. In the meantime, Mr. Harrison, you're ordered to stay away from Mrs. Harrison. No calls, no texts, no showing up at her hotel. If you violate this order, you'll be arrested. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor. Good. This court is adjourned. The bailiff called for everyone to rise. Judge Williams swept out of the courtroom. The moment she was gone, Rebecca turned on Brandon, her voice low and angry. Simone couldn't hear what she was saying, but Brandon's face got redder and redder. Diana gathered her files. That went better than I expected. The video was a gift from heaven. Who sent it? Simone asked. The affidavit says it came from someone named Bethany Morris. Do you know her? Simone thought back to the gala. Bethany. She'd been standing near the entrance, holding her phone up. Simone had assumed she was taking selfies. But she'd been filming the whole time. I know her, Simone said. We served on a charity committee together 2 years ago. We weren't close, but she was always nice to me. Well, she just handed us the case on a silver platter. That video proves everything. Brandon can't claim self-defense. He can't claim you attacked him first. It's all right there. They walked out of the courtroom. In the hallway, several people waited. Gregory and Leonard from Sterling Consulting. Tyler, Brandon's former assistant. And Natasha. Natasha stood against the far wall, her arms crossed, her face twisted in anger. When she saw Simone, she pushed off the wall and walked over. This is all your fault, Natasha said. You're destroying my brother's life. Your brother destroyed his own life, Diana said before Simone could respond. And you helped him by encouraging his behavior. I don't have to listen to this. Natasha turned to Simone. Brandon made a mistake. One mistake. And you're taking everything from him. He hit me, Simone said quietly. And you clapped. Natasha's mouth opened. Close. I didn't mean. You meant it. You've always hated me. I don't know why, but you've spent 7 years making little comments, little jabs, trying to make me feel small. Well, I'm not small. And I'm not going to apologize for protecting myself. Brandon is family. Family forgives. Brandon stopped being my family the moment his hand hit my face. And you stopped being my sister-in-law the moment you applauded. Simone walked past Natasha toward the exit. Diana followed. Behind them, Simone heard Natasha call out, "You'll regret this. Both of you." Is that a threat? Diana called back. Because I'm happy to add you to the restraining order. Natasha didn't respond. Outside the courthouse, Gregory and Leonard were waiting by a black car. Gregory approached Simone, his hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. "Mrs. Harrison," he said, "we wanted to talk to you about Sterling." "What about it?" "We've decided to buy out both Brandon's shares and yours. We've secured financing. The offer is fair market value plus the back payments you're owed. You'd walk away with approximately $3 million. Simone looked at Diana. Diana nodded slightly. "I'll consider it," Simone said. "Have your lawyer send the details to Diana." "Thank you." Gregory hesitated. "For what it's worth, we're sorry. If we'd known what Brandon was doing." "I know," Simone said. "But you didn't know. None of us did. That's what people like Brandon count on. Everyone looking the other way." She got into Diana's car. As they pulled away from the courthouse, Simone looked back one more time. Brandon was standing on the steps, watching her leave. His lawyers stood on either side of him, talking urgently. But Brandon just stared at Simone with empty eyes. "He looks broken," Simone said. "Good," Diana replied. "He should be." They drove in silence for a while. Finally, Simone asked, "Is it wrong that I don't feel bad for him?" "No, it's not wrong. He made his choices. He hurt you. He stole from you. He lied to everyone around him. The consequences are his to bear, not yours." Simone's phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. "I heard about the video. I'm so glad someone caught it. No more he said, she said. Just the truth." Another text came in. This one from Bethany, the woman who'd filmed the video. "I hope my video helps. I couldn't stay silent after what I saw. No woman should go through that." Simone replied to both messages with simple thank yous. Then she leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. The legal storm was far from over. There would be more hearings, more paperwork, more stress. But the hardest part was done. She'd stood up in court and told the truth. The judge had believed her. The evidence supported her. And Brandon's empire was crumbling, one piece at a time. 3 weeks after the court hearing, Simone sat in a coffee shop and watched Brandon's life fall apart in real time. It started with social media. Someone, Simone never found out who, posted the video from the gala online. Within hours, it had been shared thousands of times. People Simone didn't even know were commenting, expressing outrage, tagging Brandon's business, calling for consequences. Sterling Consulting Group released a statement the same day. "We do not tolerate violence of any kind. Brandon Harrison is no longer associated with our company." Then came the business partners. The clients who'd worked with Brandon for years suddenly found other consulting firms. The professional organizations that had given him awards quietly removed his name from their websites. The charity boards he'd served on asked for his resignation. His reputation didn't just take a hit. It was destroyed. Completely and totally destroyed. Simone watched it happen from a distance, neither celebrating nor mourning. She simply observed as the truth spread like wildfire, burning away all the lies Brandon had built his life on. Crystal disappeared. Her social media accounts went private. She stopped showing up at events. Someone told Simone that Crystal had transferred to a different company in a different city, running away from the scandal. But the scandal followed her. People talked. People always talked. Natasha's life unraveled next, and that surprised Simone more than anything. It started with a post on one of those community gossip forums. Someone who'd been at the gala wrote about Natasha applauding after Brandon hit Simone. The post included details about Natasha's marriage, her husband Robert, and how she'd always treated Simone poorly. Robert apparently hadn't known about the applause. Or maybe he'd known but hadn't realized how bad it looked until everyone was talking about it. 3 days after the video went viral, Natasha called Simone. Simone didn't answer. Natasha left a voicemail. Please, Simone. I need to talk to you. Robert is leaving me. He says he can't be married to someone who would applaud domestic violence. Please call me back. I'll apologize. I'll do whatever you want. Simone deleted the voicemail without saving it. Diana found out about the situation through her network of contacts. Apparently Robert's running for city council, Diana told Simone over coffee. His campaign manager told him that being associated with Natasha would sink his chances. So he's filing for divorce. He's claiming irreconcilable differences, but everyone knows it's because of that applause. I didn't ask for that to happen, Simone said. You didn't have to. Karma handles itself. Simone received more messages from Natasha over the next few weeks. Texts, emails, even a handwritten letter delivered to Diana's office. All of them said the same thing. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Please help me. Please talk to Robert. Please make this go away. Simone read each message once and then deleted it. She felt no obligation to help the woman who'd humiliated her in front of 150 people. Natasha had made her choice. Now she could live with it. The settlement with Sterling Consulting came through. $3 million deposited into an account that only Simone had access to. She stared at the balance for a long time, unable to believe it was real. She'd started this journey with nothing but a bruised face and a phone call. Now she had more money than she'd ever imagined. More importantly, she had freedom. Diana helped her set up a financial plan. Investments, savings, a budget for the future. Simone listened carefully to every word. She trusted someone else with her money once before. She wouldn't make that mistake again. You know you could retire, Diana said. Just live off the interest, travel, do whatever you want. I don't want to retire, Simone said. I want to work. I want to build something that's mine. Then do it. You have the capital. You have the skills. You just need the idea. Simone had been thinking about the idea for weeks. She'd worked in event planning before she married Brandon. She'd been good at it too. But Brandon had encouraged her to quit, saying he made enough money for both of them. She'd listened because she'd thought that's what wives did. They supported their husbands' dreams. But now she had her own dreams again. I want to start a consulting firm, Simone said. Like Sterling but different. I want to focus on helping small businesses, women-owned businesses, companies that don't usually get attention from the big consulting firms. Diana smiled. That's a great idea. And you know what? You probably just stole half of Sterling's future client base. I'm not trying to hurt them. I know. But Brandon will see it that way. Good. Simone filed the paperwork to start her own LLC. Simone Harrison Consulting. Simple. Professional. Hers. She rented a small office downtown, nothing fancy but bright and clean with big windows that let in natural light. She hired a part-time assistant, a recent college graduate named Tasha who reminded Simone of herself at that age, eager, ambitious, ready to prove herself. Word spread quickly. Tyler, Brandon's former assistant, reached out asking if she needed help. I know how things work at Sterling, he said. I know the clients. I know the systems. And I'm done working for men who treat people badly. Simone hired him on the spot. Other people followed. A graphic designer who'd freelanced for Sterling. An accountant who'd left the company after Brandon's fraud came to light. A marketing specialist who'd been let go during Brandon's restructuring 2 years ago. Within 6 weeks, Simone had a team of 5 people. Small but dedicated. They worked hard, took on clients that Sterling had ignored, and built a reputation for honesty and quality work. Brandon found out about the new company through social media. He sent one text. You stole my business model. You stole my clients. You're a thief. Simone showed the text to Diana, who drafted a response. My client has every right to work in her chosen field. If she's successful where you failed, that's your problem, not hers. Any further contact will be considered harassment. The final divorce papers came through on a cold November morning. Simone signed them in Diana's office, her hands steady, her heart calm. 7 years of marriage, ended with a signature on a dotted line. How do you feel? Diana asked. Free, Simone said. And she meant it. That evening, she went to dinner with Nicole. They'd been texting for weeks and finally met in person at a quiet restaurant downtown. Nicole was shorter than Simone expected, with brown hair and a warm smile that reached her eyes. I wanted to thank you, Nicole said over appetizers. For finishing what I couldn't. You helped me, Simone said. Your text that night, your support. It mattered. I should have pressed charges when I had the chance. I should have stood up to him. You did what you needed to do to survive. That's all any of us can do. They talked for hours. About Brandon, about their experiences, about healing. Nicole had gone to therapy after leaving Brandon. She'd rebuilt her life, started her own business, gotten engaged to someone who treated her with respect. You'll get there too, Nicole said. It takes time. But one day you'll wake up and realize you haven't thought about him in weeks. And that's when you know you've really moved on. Simone hoped she was right. On her way home, Simone's phone buzzed. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Simone Harrison? A man's voice, unfamiliar. Who is this? My name is Jonathan Price. I'm a business reporter for the Tribune. I'm working on a story about Sterling Consulting Group and the Brandon Harrison situation. I was hoping you might be willing to comment. No comment, Simone said immediately. I understand this is difficult, but people are curious about your side of the story. How does it feel to go from victim to successful businesswoman in just a few months? I'm not a victim, Simone said. I'm a survivor. And I'm not interested in telling my story to a reporter. Thank you. She hung up. Her hands were shaking. Diana had warned her this might happen. The media loves stories like hers. Wronged wife gets revenge. Abusive husband gets what he deserves. It made good headlines. But Simone wasn't interested in headlines. She was interested in building her life, one day at a time. She got home to her new apartment, a small but bright space she'd rented after leaving the hotel, and poured herself a glass of wine. She stood by the window looking out at the city lights and thought about everything that had happened. 3 months ago, she'd been married to a man who hit her. She'd been broke, powerless, afraid. Now she had money. She had a business. She had friends who supported her. She had a future that belonged to her and no one else. Brandon's world had unraveled. His business was gone. His reputation was destroyed. His sister's marriage had fallen apart. His girlfriend had abandoned him. Everything he built on lies had collapsed. And Simone? She was just getting started. Simone was reviewing contracts in her new office when Tasha knocked on the door. Someone here to see you, Tasha said, her voice uncertain. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Her name is Natasha. Simone set down her pen. She'd been expecting this. Natasha had tried calling, texting, and emailing for weeks. When those didn't work, showing up in person was the logical next step. Send her in, Simone said. And stay within earshot, please. You got it. Natasha walked into the office looking nothing like the polished woman who'd applauded at the gala. Her hair needed washing. Her clothes were wrinkled. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She looked 10 years older than she was. Simone, she said. Thank you for seeing me. Simone didn't stand up. She didn't offer Natasha a seat. She just waited. Natasha seemed to deflate. She sat down in the chair across from Simone's desk without being invited. I need your help. No. Please. Just hear me out. I said no. You can leave now. Robert is taking everything. The house. The cars. He's even fighting for custody of our dog. Our lawyer says I don't have a case because of what I did at the gala. Because I applauded when Brandon hit you. Then your lawyer is right. Natasha's eyes filled with tears. I made a mistake. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking clearly. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Simone leaned forward. You've been making little comments and taking little jabs at me for 7 years. You've always hated me. That applause wasn't about being drunk. It was about finally having an excuse to show it. That's not true. Isn't it? Remember my 30th birthday party? You told everyone my dress made me look like I was trying too hard. Remember Thanksgiving 2 years ago? You said I'd made the turkey too dry, even though everyone else said it was perfect. Remember the Christmas party where you laughed when someone spilled wine on my white coat? Natasha looked away. You've spent years trying to make me feel small, Simone continued. Trying to make me feel like I wasn't good enough for your brother. Like I didn't belong in your family. Well, guess what? I'm not in your family anymore. And I'm doing just fine. I was jealous, Natasha said quietly. What? I was jealous of you. You were beautiful. Smart. People liked you. And Brandon was crazy about you, at least at first. I saw how he looked at you. Like you were the center of his world. He never looked at me like that. Brandon was your brother, not your boyfriend. That's creepy. Not like that. Natasha wiped her eyes. I just meant. I wanted someone to look at me the way he looked at you. Robert never did. He married me because I came from the right family. Because it looked good for his career. He never loved me. Not really. And somehow that's my fault? No. It's not your fault. It's mine. I took my misery out on you. I made you the enemy when you were just trying to fit in. And when Brandon hit you, something in me snapped. I thought, finally she's not perfect. Finally, she's getting what she deserves. Simone felt cold. Get out. But I was wrong. You didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. And when that video went viral, when I saw Robert's face as he watched it, I realized what I'd done. I destroyed my own life because I was too petty and jealous to see the truth. The truth is that you're a bitter woman who celebrates other people's pain. The truth is that I don't owe you anything. Not my forgiveness. Not my help. Nothing. Natasha stood up. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm asking anyway. Please, Simone. Robert will listen to you. If you told him that I apologized, that I've changed. But you haven't changed. You're still the same person who applauded when your brother hit me. You're just sorry because now there are consequences. That's not change. That's regret. What's the difference? Change means you understand why what you did was wrong. Regret just means you wish you hadn't gotten caught. Natasha's face crumpled. So that's it? You're just going to let Robert destroy me? I'm not letting Robert do anything. His choices are his own. Just like yours were. Just like mine are now. You're heartless. Simone laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I'm heartless? You applauded when I got hit. You spent years making me feel worthless. And now you want my sympathy? No. You don't get that from me. You don't get anything from me. Natasha's face hardened. The tears dried up. Fine. You want to play it like that? I'll tell people what really happened. I'll tell them you've been lying. That you manipulated Brandon. That you took all his money and destroyed his life. Go ahead. See who believes you. See how many people are willing to defend the woman who applauded domestic violence. Natasha grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Before she left, she turned back one more time. You're going to regret this. No, Simone said. I really won't. The door slammed. Tasha appeared 30 seconds later. Everything okay? Everything's fine. If that woman shows up again, don't let her in. If she causes a scene, call the police. Will do. Simone tried to go back to work, but her hands were shaking. She hated that Natasha still had that effect on her. Even now, even after everything, part of her wanted to help. Wanted to smooth things over. Wanted to be the bigger person. But she'd been the bigger person for 7 years. She'd swallowed her hurt. She'd ignored the comments. She tried to win Natasha's approval even though she knew it would never come. She was done being the bigger person. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Just saw Natasha leaving the building. She looked upset. You okay? Simone replied, I'm fine. She wanted help with her divorce. I said no. Good. She doesn't deserve your help. Another text came in, this time from Diana. Guess who just filed a lawsuit against Sterling Consulting Group? Natasha Harrison. She's claiming they defamed her by releasing a statement about Brandon's behavior. Simone called Diana immediately. Is she serious? Dead serious. The lawsuit is ridiculous. Sterling didn't mention her by name. They just said they don't tolerate violence. But Natasha is desperate. Robert's divorce lawyer is brutal. She's going to lose everything. So she's lashing out at anyone she can? Exactly. Expect her to come after you next. She might try to claim you turned Robert against her or something equally stupid. Let her try. I have better lawyers. Diana laughed. Damn right you do. The lawsuit against Sterling hit the news the next day. People online tore Natasha apart. Comments ranged from she applauded domestic violence and now she's playing victim? To some people have no shame. Robert's campaign team issued a statement. Mr. Harrison is committed to his city council race and will not be commenting on his personal life. His divorce is a private matter. Translation. Robert wanted everyone to know he was divorcing Natasha, but he didn't want to talk about why. Simone watched the drama unfold from a distance. She didn't comment. She didn't engage. She simply focused on her business, her clients, her new life. 2 weeks later, Natasha dropped the lawsuit. Her lawyer released a statement saying it had been filed in error. Nobody believed it, but nobody cared enough to dig deeper. Natasha had become irrelevant. Nicole texted Simone, saw that Natasha dropped her lawsuit. Bet her lawyer told her she had no case. Simone replied, Karma is real. Amen to that. The holidays approached. Simone's first holidays as a divorced woman. Her first holidays without Brandon's family, Without the awkward dinners where Natasha made passive-aggressive comments and Brandon pretended everything was fine. She thought it would be hard. Lonely. Sad. Instead she felt relief. She spent Thanksgiving with Diana and her family. She spent Christmas volunteering at a shelter, serving food to people who had nowhere else to go. She spent New Year's Eve in her apartment with a good book and a glass of wine, watching the fireworks from her window. It wasn't the life she'd imagined when she married Brandon 7 years ago. But it was better. It was hers. And nobody could take it away from her. January brought new clients and new opportunities. Simone's business was growing faster than she'd expected. Companies that had never heard of Sterling Consulting were reaching out to her, attracted by her story and her reputation for honest work. She hired 2 more people in the first week of the new year. Her office was getting crowded, so she started looking at larger spaces. The kind of spaces she'd always imagined running her own business from. Bright, modern, professional. One afternoon, Tyler knocked on her door. "Someone's here to see you. He says he's an old friend from college." Simone looked up from her laptop, confused. "What's his name?" "Elliot Chin." Simone's heart skipped. Elliot. She hadn't thought about him in years. They'd dated briefly in college, nothing serious, but they'd remained friends after graduation. He'd moved to California for work while she'd stayed here and married Brandon. "Send him in," she said, standing up and smoothing her shirt. Elliot walked into her office looking exactly the same but somehow different. Still tall, still wearing glasses, still with that shy smile. But there was a confidence about him now that hadn't been there in college. "Simone," he said. "Wow. Look at you." "Look at me?" She laughed. "What are you doing here?" "I thought you were in California." I moved back 2 months ago. Got a job with a tech firm downtown. I've been meaning to reach out, but I wasn't sure if you'd remember me." "Of course I remember you. How could I forget the guy who helped me pass calculus?" Elliot smiled. "I helped you cheat on 1 quiz. That's not the same as passing the class." They caught up for an hour. Elliot told her about California, about his job, about why he'd moved back. His mom was getting older and needed help. He wanted to be closer to family. Simone told him about her business, carefully avoiding the details about Brandon. But Elliot had already heard. "I saw the news," he said carefully. "About your divorce. I'm sorry you went through that." "I'm not," Simone said. I'm sorry it happened. But I'm not sorry it's over. Does that make sense?" Perfect sense. They talked about other things. Shared memories from college. Mutual friends they'd lost touch with. The city and how much it had changed. Before he left, Elliot hesitated at the door. "Would you want to get coffee sometime? Just as friends?" "I'm not trying to." "I'd like that," Simone said. "As friends?" They exchanged numbers. Elliot left with a smile that made Simone feel warm inside. Not the desperate need to be loved that she'd felt with Brandon. Just a simple, comfortable warmth. Over the next few weeks they texted occasionally. Nothing heavy. Just funny observations about work, recommendations for restaurants, memories from college. Easy. Natural. Nice. Then Elliot invited her to a work event. "It's boring corporate stuff," he said. "But there will be food. And I could use a friendly face in the crowd." Simone said yes before she could overthink it. The event was at a hotel downtown. Not the same hotel as the gala, thank God. Simone wore a simple black dress and silver jewelry. Nothing flashy. Just professional and comfortable. Elliot met her in the lobby. He looked nervous, which made Simone feel less nervous somehow. "You look great," he said. "So do you." The event itself was exactly what Elliot had described. Boring corporate speeches. Networking small talk. Rubber chicken dinner. But Elliot stayed by her side the whole time, making quiet jokes that made her laugh, introducing her to people from his company, making sure she never felt uncomfortable. It wasn't a date. They'd both made that clear. But it felt like the beginning of something. Something good. On the drive home, Elliot said, "I had a good time tonight." "Me too. I know you're probably not ready for anything serious. After everything you went through. But I just want you to know, if you ever are ready, if you ever want to try again with someone, I'd like to be that someone." Simone looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd been her friend in college. Who'd moved across the country and then come back. Who'd asked her to a boring work event and made sure she felt safe the entire time. "I don't know if I'm ready," she said honestly. "I don't know if I'll ever be ready. Brandon, what he did, it changed me." "I know. And I'm not asking you to be ready now. I'm just saying that when you are, if you are, I'll be here. No pressure. No expectations. Just here." Simone felt tears in her eyes, but they weren't sad tears. They were the good kind. The kind that came from being seen and understood. "Thank you," she whispered. Elliot squeezed her hand once, then let go. "Friends?" "Friends," she agreed. Business continued to boom. By March, Simone had moved into a bigger office and hired 3 more people. She was working with clients she'd never dreamed of landing. Small businesses, women-owned startups, non-profits that needed strategic guidance but couldn't afford Sterling's prices. She loved it. Every day brought new challenges, new problems to solve, new people to help. This was what she was supposed to be doing. Not playing the perfect wife. Not making herself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. One evening as she was locking up the office, her phone rang. A known number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Simone? It's Gregory. From Sterling." She hadn't spoken to Gregory since the buyout. "Hi. What can I do for you? I wanted to give you a heads up. Brandon is trying to start a new consulting firm. He's calling it Harrison Strategic Partners. He's reaching out to old Sterling clients trying to rebuild." Simone leaned against her car. "Okay. Why are you telling me?" "Because he's bad-mouthing you. Telling people you stole his business model. That you manipulated the court system. That you're not qualified to run a consulting firm." "And are people believing him?" Gregory laughed. "Not even a little. Most of our former clients are already working with you. The ones who aren't have made it clear they want nothing to do with Brandon. You burned too many bridges. His reputation is toast. So why tell me? Because I wanted you to know that we've got your back. Leonard and I have been telling everyone who asks that you're the best consultant in this city. That working with you was a privilege. That Brandon was lucky to have you and stupid to lose you." Simone felt something tight in her chest loosen. "Thank you. That means a lot. You earned it. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making the rest of us look bad." They hung up. Simone sat in her car for a minute, processing. Brandon was trying to make a comeback. Of course he was. Men like him always thought they deserved a second chance. But the world had changed. People weren't as willing to forgive violence, to overlook fraud, to give second chances to men who'd proven they couldn't be trusted. Brandon would learn that the hard way. Her phone buzzed. A text from Elliot. "Want to get dinner this weekend? There's a new Italian place I've been wanting to try." Simone smiled. She typed back, "Sounds perfect." She started her car and drove home, the city lights blurring past her window. Her apartment was small but cozy. Her own space. Her own rules. Her own life. She thought about where she'd been 3 months ago. Broken. Scared. Unsure if she'd survive. And where she was now. Strong. Successful. Surrounded by people who respected her. She'd survived. More than that, she'd thrived. And she was just getting started. 1 year. That's how long it had been since the gala. Since the slap. Since everything changed. Simone stood in front of her office building, her building because she'd bought it outright 6 months ago, and looked up at the sign above the entrance. Harrison Consulting Group. Simple. Professional. Hers. The business had grown beyond anything she'd imagined. She now had 20 employees, an office that took up 3 floors, and a client list that made other consulting firms jealous. She'd been featured in business magazines. Asked to speak at conferences. Interviewed about her success story. She always declined to talk about Brandon. That part of her life was over. She'd moved on. Brandon hadn't moved on. According to Diana, who still kept tabs on him, Brandon's attempt to start a new firm had failed within 6 months. Nobody wanted to work with him. Nobody wanted to hire him. His reputation was too damaged. Last Diana had heard, Brandon was working as a sales manager at a furniture store. Making hourly wages. Living in a small apartment. Driving a 10-year-old car. Everything he'd had was gone. Simone felt nothing when she heard this. Not happiness. Not sadness. Nothing. Brandon was simply a person who'd once been in her life and now wasn't. Like an old coworker or a distant cousin. She walked into her building and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Her office was at the end of the hall, with windows that overlooked the city. She'd decorated it herself. Modern furniture. Plants in every corner. Artwork from local artists on the walls. Tasha was waiting with her morning coffee. "Morning, boss. You have a light day today. Just 2 meetings and a conference call." "Perfect. Thanks, Tasha." Tyler appeared in the doorway. "Quick heads up. That reporter from the Tribune called again. Still wanting an interview about your success story." "Still not interested," Simone said. "That's what I told him. But he's persistent. So am I." Tyler grinned and left. Simone settled at her desk and pulled up her email. Dozens of messages. Client questions. Partnership proposals. Speaking invitations. She loved being busy. Loved having purpose. Loved building something that mattered. Her phone buzzed. A text from Elliot. Still on for dinner tonight? They'd been dating for 8 months now. Officially dating. Taking it slow but dating. Elliot was patient. Kind. He never pushed. Never demanded. Never made her feel small. He was everything Brandon wasn't. Simone hadn't been ready for a relationship at first. The thought of trusting someone again, of being vulnerable, of risking her heart, it terrified her. But Elliot had waited. He'd been her friend first. And slowly, carefully, Simone had let herself feel again. She texted back, wouldn't miss it. At noon, Simone had lunch with Diana. They met at their usual spot, a sandwich shop near Diana's office. Diana was in full lawyer mode, talking about her latest case, completely absorbed in the details. You love what you do, Simone observed. I do. And so do you. Look at us. A year ago you were in a hotel room with a bruised face. Now you're running a successful business. That's not just survival. That's triumph. I had help. You had good lawyers, Diana corrected with a smile. But you did the work. You made the choices. You stood up when it would have been easier to stay down. Have you heard anything about Brandon lately? Nothing worth mentioning. He's irrelevant now. Which is exactly what he deserves to be. After lunch, Simone walked back to her office. The weather was perfect. Spring had arrived, bringing warm breezes and blooming flowers. Everything felt new. Fresh. Possible. As she rounded the corner toward her building, she saw someone standing near the entrance. A man in a worn jacket, his hands in his pockets, looking up at the Harrison Consulting Group sign. Brandon. Simone stopped walking. Her first instinct was to turn around to avoid the confrontation. But then she remembered who she was now. What she'd built. What she'd survived. She kept walking. Brandon saw her approaching. His face was thinner than she remembered. Older. Tired. He didn't look like the man who'd hit her a year ago. He looked like a shadow of that man. Simone, he said as she reached the entrance. Brandon. Her voice was neutral. Not friendly, not hostile. Just neutral. I wanted to talk to you. Just for a minute. There's nothing to talk about. Please. I've been trying to reach you for months. Your assistant always says you're busy. I am busy. I can see that. He gestured at the building. You've done well for yourself. Really well. Thank you. An awkward silence stretched between them. Brandon looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. If that's all, Simone started to move toward the door. I'm sorry. She stopped. Turned back. What? I'm sorry. For everything. For hitting you. For lying to you. For stealing from you. For being the kind of man who would do those things. I'm sorry. Simone studied his face. He looked sincere. But sincerity didn't erase the past. Okay, she said. Okay? That's it. What do you want me to say, Brandon? That I forgive you? That we can be friends? That I'll help you rebuild your career? She shook her head. I'm not going to do any of those things. You made your choices. You deal with the consequences. I've lost everything. Yes, you have. And you know whose fault that is? Yours. Not mine. Not Diana's. Not the video. Not the witnesses. Yours. You hit me in front of 150 people. You stole my money. You lied to your business partners. You destroyed your own life with your own actions. Brandon's eyes filled with tears. I know. I know it's my fault. I don't know how to fix it. How to move forward. That's not my problem anymore. Could you tell people that I apologized? That I'm trying to change? Maybe it would help with job applications with... No. Please, Simone. I'm begging you. The answer is no. I don't owe you anything. Not my forgiveness. Not my help. Not my pity. You had a good life. A successful business. A wife who loved you. And you threw it all away because you couldn't control your temper and couldn't keep your pants zipped. That's on you. I was a different person back then. Were you? Or were you just better at hiding who you really were? Because the man who hit me at that gala, the man who stole money and lied to everyone, that man was always there. I just didn't see him. Or maybe I saw him and made excuses for him. Either way, I'm done. Brandon wiped his eyes. So that's it? You're just going to let me suffer? I'm not letting you do anything. I'm simply refusing to save you from yourself. There's a difference. She turned toward the door. Brandon called after her. You were nothing before me. I made you. Simone stopped, turned back slowly. No, Brandon. You broke me, and I rebuilt myself. The woman I am now. She exists in spite of you, not because of you. And she's stronger than you'll ever be. She walked into her building without looking back. The glass doors closed behind her, cutting off whatever else Brandon might have said. In the elevator, Simone let herself breathe. Her hands were shaking slightly. Seeing Brandon had affected her more than she wanted to admit. But she'd done it. She'd faced him and she hadn't crumbled. Hadn't apologized. Hadn't made herself small. She'd simply told the truth. Tasha looked up when Simone walked past her desk. Everything okay? Everything's fine. That evening, Simone met Elliot for dinner at the Italian restaurant. They sat by the window watching people walk past on the street outside. Elliot told her about his day, about a funny thing his coworker had said, about plans for the weekend. Normal things. Good things. Things that had nothing to do with Brandon or divorce or revenge. Over dessert, Elliot reached across the table and took her hand. I'm proud of you. You know that, right? For what? For everything. For building your business. For standing up for yourself. For being brave enough to start over. I had help. You had a lot of help. But you're the one who did the work. You're the one who refused to give up. That's all you. Simone squeezed his hand. Thank you. They walked back to her apartment together. At the door, Elliot kissed her goodnight. Gentle. Sweet. Safe. I'll call you tomorrow, he said. I'll answer. Inside her apartment, Simone kicked off her shoes and collapsed on the couch. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. Heard through the grapevine that Brandon tried to talk to you today. You okay? I'm perfect, Simone typed back. He apologized. I said no. He got angry. I didn't care. It was actually kind of freeing. Good. You don't owe him anything. I know. Simone set her phone down and looked around her apartment. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't big. But it was hers. Every piece of furniture. Every decoration. Every choice. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Scared. Broken. Unsure if she'd survive. And the woman she was now. Strong. Successful. Brandon had tried to destroy her. He'd slapped her in front of 150 people. He'd stolen her money. He'd lied to her face. And she'd won anyway. Not because she'd destroyed him. She hadn't. He'd destroyed himself. She'd simply refused to let him take her down with him. That one quiet phone call a year ago had changed everything. Diana had answered. Had helped. Had fought beside her. But the real change had come from within. From Simone deciding that she was worth fighting for. That she deserved better. That she wouldn't be a victim anymore. The revenge she'd wanted wasn't about hurting Brandon. It was about reclaiming herself. Her power. Her life. Her future. And she had. She picked up her phone and texted Diana. Thank you. For everything. I couldn't have done this without you. Diana's response came immediately. You're damn right you couldn't have. Good thing I'm the best lawyer in this city. Simone smiled. She opened her laptop and started reviewing the proposal for a new client. A women's shelter that needed help with strategic planning. The kind of work that mattered. The kind of work that helped people. The kind of work she was meant to do. Outside her window, the city lights twinkled. A year ago, she'd driven away from a hotel, her face bruised, her heart broken, making one quiet phone call that would change everything. Now she sat in her own apartment, running her own business, living her own life, answering to no one but herself. She'd survived. She'd thrived. And she'd won. Not because she'd destroyed Brandon, but because she'd saved herself. And that was the best revenge of all.